great. I love it. Well, howdy there, DBF family. As you can see, I got the old Yamaha PW80 behind me. And on last time's video, we got this thing running and the motor was not exactly happy. It's on the verge of being pretty much wore out. So, in today's video, we're gonna rebuild the top end on this thing, do some little bit of some upgrades to the clutch, and we're gonna reseal all the seals in this bike to keep it leaking like the Exxon Valdez. So let's get into it, shall we? So what I'm going to use for the top end for this thing is a total complete top end kit. Comes with the new piston rings, bearings, and cylinder jug. And I got all this from Rocky Mountain ATV literally for 35 bucks. Yeah, it's so cheap, it's almost too good to be true, but I figured, you know what? If it blows up first time out, I still got the factory stuff. We could throw a piston rings, do a little machine work on, and probably be all right. But I figured for that price, man, it's worth a shot. So let's get the carburetor, cylinder head, and basically the top end tore off this thing. And let's compare the two, shall we? Carburetor. Alright, come off there, little fella. Ugh, carbon. Cute little head gasket. I always like to look down inside the cylinder. I don't know why before I slide it off, but I don't know, kind of have it. So let's take a look, see what we can find. Whoa, wow, anybody home? Nope, no one's there. Alright, let's pull this jug off and I'll show you what I see. Pretty obvious why this thing had a hard time starting and had low compression. Give me the old whackaroo with a soft face mount. Yeah. Ta-da! Yeah, this thing was trashed. Let's pull the piston off the rod. That way we can inspect the rod itself and the crank bearings. Circlip. Piston. So when you inspect the rod and the rod bearing down on the crank, is what you want to look for first is visually look and see if there's any purpling or discoloring of the rod itself or around the crank. If there's any discoloring or purpling or color or heat indications where it's been had a lot of friction on there, it's no good. Second thing you want to do is actually hold the crank or hold the flywheel and see if there's any lateral movement this way. So basically up and down in that bearing. If there's any movement up and down, that bearing's shot or the crank itself is shot. Now, side to side, that's okay. Like it'll move this way just fine, because it's going to have a little bit of movement that way just so it can absorb the fuel and the oil for lubrication. But up and down, that's no bueno. So this one seems to be like it's in really good shape, so I'm not going to worry about rebuilding the crank like I would on a big bike. So let's investigate the rest of the parts, see what we got. So don't mind the kind of the sounds like a fan going on in the background. I got my swamp cooler going in here because it's going to be well over 100 degrees here in southern Utah today, and I'm a wimp. I don't want to be sweat. Yeah, it's not great. Anyways, that's the noise you can hear in the background. I apologize, but it is what it is. Moving on to the cylinder, I'm going to show you. If you look down inside, let's see if I don't know if you guys can tell, but there is zero cross hatching in this cylinder, so it's going to have a really hard time making any sort of compression. This has a lot of wear on it. The actual rings on the piston are showing quite a bit of lateral wear this way. So, I mean, yeah, I probably could have gone ahead, bought a new piston, bought new rings, and probably honed the cylinder to get the cross hatching back in it. But for under 40 bucks, you get all new stuff. Seems to me like that was a no-brainer, so we'll give it a shot. But yeah, this thing's definitely the life expectancy of the way it was is ways it were not good. That makes sense? Way it was, ways it were. I don't know. It's wore out. Time for a freshen up. So let's get the base gaskets cleaned off of the bottom end of the cases and get to reinstalling this new top end. Oh, and the cylinder head. Ew, crunchy. Yeah. Much better. So now that I got the cylinder head all cleaned up, let's check out this top end kit that I got from Rocky Mountain ATV. So this is what you get when you order their stock rebuild kit. Brand new jug, brand new piston, and all the parts to go along with it. Now, again, I don't know how this is going to be. I've never used it, but so far it all looks like fairly quality parts. And it looks identical to the cylinder that came off the bike. So, I mean, for the price, can't really go wrong. I did find one kind of humorous thing in the kit that they sent me. It comes with a new spark plug, right? Most of them, NGK, Champion, Autolite, whatever. And it has a heat range number on the plugs. This one has nothing on it. But if you look really close, it does say spark plug on the spark plug. So, just in case you didn't know what this was, this is a spark plug, according to their kit. Pretty awesome, right? Kind of made me laugh. So, first things first, let's assemble this new piston that came with the kit with the rings and see if we can get it installed on the rod on the motor. So the next step, we're going to put the gasket on the block, lubricate the piston with a little bit more two-stroke oil, especially in the rings, wipe down the inside of the cylinder, and she's in. Little lubrication down inside the new cylinder. Just for the initial startup, you know. A little around the new rings. Let's slap the jug on. So now it's time to put the newly cleaned up cylinder head on this motor. I ran into a problem. When they packaged this top end kit, they absolutely munched the top head gasket. I've got another gasket kit on its way, but it won't be here for like another 3 days, and I wanted to see if I could get this thing running, at least started today. So I think I might throw this on, because in theory, once it's bolted down, this would squish and should be fine, but I don't know, there's probably a pretty good chance that's gonna leak, but I think I'm gonna chance it for now because it's easy to change later if this doesn't work properly. So I'm gonna go ahead, slide that squished gasket on there, and hopefully it creates a seal for us. Anytime you're doing cylinder head work on a dirt bike, always torque down your fasteners. So we're going to torque this one down 7.5 foot-pounds. That's what we're going to go with. Click, 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 click. All right, should be happy. Well, good morning there, everybody. So yesterday, you saw me go through the top end on this thing and do a new cylinder, new piston, and basically a top end rebuild. So on today's agenda, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to this clutch to keep it from slipping at higher RPMs with my fat physique on top of it. Because it was top end, it was just kind of wasn't biting like it should. Very simple fix, so let's get after it and get this clutch pulled off, set it on the table, and disassemble it. So what I'm going to do to actually help this clutch stay engaged at a higher RPM is I'm going to add 2 more clutch springs to the pressure side of this clutch pack. So for some reason, and I'm not sure why, they've got a spot for 2 more and they just didn't put them in. I mean, see, you look there, you got 1, 2, 3, skips 1, 1, 2, 3, then skips the other one. So I got 2 more of those springs. So in order to change these things, we got to pop this outer clip off, pull this pressure plate off, reinstall the 2 extra springs we got, put the pressure plate back on it, and we're pretty much done. Put the springs in there, done deal. Now while you got this pressure plate off of here, now's a really good time to actually pull the clutch fibers out of the basket and inspect the fibers, measure them, and actually inspect the steel plates that go inside of it. I've actually got new clutches coming for this thing, but they're on some boat from China that's gonna take like another 6 months to get here, I guess. So I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead, pull these plates out, and if we gotta scuff up the steel plates a little bit, I'll scuff them up so it gets a little bit of bite. But I do have a new clutch pack coming for this bike, but we can change that later on if we have to. They've been hot. Look how blue those have been. Wow. Definitely been hot. Holy smokes. I'm just taking this red scuff pad, and you can see the difference. See where it's all blued and been hot after where I've scuffed it up? Basically, what we're doing is we're just taking off the glaze off of this steel so the fibers have something to bite to and is a lot less prone to slip once we get the new fibers in it. So I'm gonna go ahead, scuff down all these, and then when my new clutches get here, we'll assemble this thing for a final time. So while I've got the side cover off and the clutch off of this thing, now's a really good time to look and inspect the crank seals and the rest of the seals. I'm gonna go ahead and change both crank seals, the one on this side and the one on the flywheel side, but unfortunately, I don't have those sitting in front of me. They're coming with the other gasket kits for like this side cover, and in the kit it's coming with the kickstart shaft seal and the shift shaft seal and the final drive seal. So I don't want this thing to leak oil like it was previously, because I don't know, that kind of stuff just bugs me, and the seal kit was super inexpensive. So what I'm going to do while we're waiting for the shift shaft seal and all the other seals and the gasket kit to show up is this thing had a major oil leak on the clutch cover side, and what they did is they just took some JB weld and just slapped over it, which is a great trail fix, but it's not a permanent fix. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bust out the TIG welder, and I'm going to fill these holes up, and then we'll grind it smooth, paint it, and bam, like it's never even happened. So let's get the TIG torch drug out and see if we can melt some aluminum in this here side cover. Well, it's been a couple of days and I got the PW80 all reassembled, fired it up. It sounds great. And I went ahead and I actually did the break-in heat cycles on this thing. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've ridden it down the road, did it without you guys. This thing runs pretty good. It's extremely high geared. My gosh, this thing is so high geared. It's scary with a guy of my size on a bike that small with suspension that's meant for a young child. Yeah, a little squirrely. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go take this thing for a rip down the street so you guys see that this thing runs right. But I think we've got some pretty good plans for this thing. You guys put down in the comments on the last video of what you wanted me to do with this thing, and it sounds like we're gonna turn this thing into a fun pit camp bike, just a all around mess around bike. Now, I know there's other bikes out there that are, you know, probably a better platform to turn into a pit bike, so to speak. You got to understand, this is not necessarily a racing pit bike. This is a load on the back of the Kenworth when we go camping, and just cruise around as we're out camping and just ride with the kids and just enjoy it, you know, just enjoy this thing. So that being said, this thing's gonna have some suspension upgrades coming here real quick. Different style bars, maybe some pegs. I mean, I don't know. Sky's kind of limits on this thing. There's so much aftermarket going on with these things. It's pretty cool, pretty cool. So that being said, let's get this thing fired up outside and we'll go burn her down the street. Thing sounds great. Can't forget the camera. This thing's great. I love it. Oh, it's awesome. It's so high geared. It's third gear's pointless. I bet this thing has a huge front sprocket on it. It's got to. I love this bike. It's so much fun. Well, there you have it. Yo, Yamaha PW80. She lives again. I'm super impressed with how this thing runs. It just goes to show that the cheap motorcycles are still out there. I shouldn't say cheap. The inexpensive motorcycles are still out there on the marketplace. Yeah, this thing was not in the best of shape, and it's still not in the best of shape, but the motor on this thing is pretty solid, especially for the price I paid for the rebuild kit for the top engine kit off this thing off of Rocky Mountain. I mean, I dang near paid as much for the seal and gasket kit to reseal the bottom end as I did the top end kit. It's pretty amazing. So all said and done, as this bike sits right here, I've got about 550 bucks in this thing. That's pretty cheap. I mean, that's really cheap. And parts for this thing are ridiculous cheap. I can't believe how cheap they are. I think I can buy a whole body plastics kit, including a new tank, for like 80 bucks. I mean, how can you go wrong with a new seat? That's incredible. So, future plans for this thing are going to be obviously suspension, so it'll help pack my fat 230-pound butt around, and you know, just handlebars and maybe some foot controls and brake levers and grips, and you know, just a few things to fine-tune this thing. And then eventually, I think we'll monkey around with some exhaust and maybe some carburetor stuff on this thing, because this carburetor on this one's just, you can just tell it's just lacking. It's just not perfect. I think this thing has a lot more in it, and I think there's a few things we can do to make this thing better. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this bike project, and do me a favor, go down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment. Have you ever had one of these things? Do you still have one of these things? Have you ever ridden a PW or a BW, the big wheel 80s? And if you have, let me know what modifications you've done to your PW80 to make it more rideable for an adult. As always, appreciate every single one of you watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.